triggered is not just being offended by something.
In my head.
Hey there everybody, let's not beat around the bush. Tonight I'm going to talk about triggers and misconceptions around what triggers are, how they relate to PTSD, all that good stuff. So that's what we're here for. If you're new, please subscribe. So there was a car coming and I couldn't finish my thought there, but if you're new here, please subscribe. I do mental health videos currently Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. If you're watching this, you know, a couple of years from now that may not be the case, but we're going to talk tonight about triggers and some misconceptions about what they are, and I'm just going to do what I normally do on this channel, which is kind of like ramble on and explain, because I do have a lot of mental health knowledge. I have read into things, I've gone through a lot of things, and I like to share that so that you can get something that's going to help you through whatever you're going through, whether you're going through it personally or a friend or a family member, a loved one, whatever it is. So, triggers. The term comes from post-traumatic stress disorder, and it comes from this idea that something in specific, whether it be like some kind of stimulus from our environment, triggers us, and then we have an episode of PTSD. So we typically would have like a flashback and get put into this fight or flight state and this panic state. And that's a very basic way to explain it, but it's been co-opted and people have been using the term triggered, like hashtag triggered, for when they feel offended by something or when they see something that they perceive as racist maybe, or it's too violent for them or whatever it is. People put triggered, like I'm triggered, and it could be true that they could be triggered by these things, and we'll get into that, but I just want to make a distinction that when triggered is not just being offended by something. Like there's plenty of things that offend me that don't trigger me. And being upset is not the same as being triggered. Being upset by something, being disturbed by something is very different from actually being triggered by something when we're talking about mental health and specifically post-traumatic stress disorder or any of the trauma and stressor-related disorders. So I'm going to keep walking and we're going to get into some of these misconceptions. Okay, I gotta try to do this quickly because it feels like it may rain and I am not dressed for that. So, alright, triggers. People don't understand. What do we not understand about triggers? So triggers can be spurred on by anything. It doesn't have to be something from outside. It can be a feeling that you have, in turn creates a trigger. It could be a thought that you have that creates a trigger. Or of course it could be something from the outside, like somebody says something, you see a visual, you hear something, and any of those can trigger you. Once you're triggered, your body's going to go into fight or flight. There's a car coming. Excuse me, so I mean fight, flight, or freeze, because I often freeze and I dissociate. I just did it earlier. But when you get triggered, you either feel like you get very angry and frustrated and you need to lash out, or maybe you lash out against yourself. You may shut down and kind of like your emotions go off. Like all kinds of different things can happen. But triggering doesn't have to be something outside of you. I can't win. I need to move. Being followed. So that was fun. This happens on my channel sometimes where I complain about cars and I complain about my environment, and some people don't really understand it, but I was going to a place where I normally film. Somebody was in the parking lot in a truck, I couldn't see if the truck had any labels on it. It had like yellow lights on the top, but it wasn't the type where they like flash or anything. But it was like creeping as I was going towards the parking lot, and it was like creeping towards me. So I just kept walking. I decided, you know what, I'm not going to stop. This isn't worth it. Kept going down the street, and then there was a parking lot that was on the other corner that I decided, you know what, I'm going to stop here and see if I can do a quick little film over here. But when I turned around, as I did that, the car went across the street into the corner parking lot. Like this would have had to been... They had to intentionally do it, so that's when I made the video and said like I'm being followed. continue walking and they turn around as I'm walking, and I've got my earphones in and I leave them in because I don't want to be involved with you. I don't want to hear you. Just leave me alone. And so the person, excuse me, whoever it was, I turned around and both of them, there was two people out of the car and they were looking towards me. I don't know if they were like police officers or security or just people looking to bother me, or who knows, or maybe it had nothing to do with me. It certainly felt like it was about me because they followed me. But that was unsettling, uncomfortable. I'm sorry about the car noise. Where I am right now is not even a great place to be talking, but I'm running out of places. So just a warning to you, if you plan on following me, don't F with me because I am ready. So we'll just leave that out there. Anyway, that said, let's get into triggers. I'm going to go somewhere where hopefully it's a little bit more calm and I can talk about this, and this is going to have to be a short video because it's not good for me to be out here tonight. Okay, so triggers. Was I triggered there? Maybe a little bit. I was walking away from the situation and I knew that they couldn't really follow me because I was going somewhere that was public and they wouldn't be able to really do anything. So I wasn't too triggered, but I was a little, my anxiety level went up. So when somebody's triggered, their arousal level goes up, and you know, if they kick into fight or flight, my glasses are fogging, excuse me, but when they kick into fight or flight, that's when they get that angry impulse, or we shut down and we kind of go numb and we dissociate, or we depersonalize and derealize and all that stuff. But it doesn't have to be because there's some kind of traumatic memory necessarily, or it doesn't have to be. Okay, let's see how far I can get into this in this little bit of time that I have. There can be a traumatic memory sometimes, and it's covered up and it's so buried that we don't remember the original traumatic memory anymore, and it's just like a feeling, because traumatic memories are fractured. They're not whole memories. They're not like, it's not like we think back to when we were 9 years old and we were in the toy box and somebody came up behind us and hit us in the head, and we don't remember like what music was playing and like all that stuff. It's not like that. It's more like we just remember being hit in the head, or we remember the toy box, but we remember pain and the toy box, we don't remember why. So that's what a traumatic memory is, and sometimes we don't even have access to the traumatic memory because it was so painful in the moment that we shut it off. It's not there anymore. Didn't have to occur in childhood either, by the way. But what we have is a trigger, regardless. That we have a soft spot that when somebody pokes at it, or something happens, or maybe we poke at it ourselves with our own thoughts and our own sensations, it goes off and then we freak out. And again, this is not the same as being offended by something. Being offended by something means you disagree with it, you think it's disgusting, you think it's not appropriate, and it could include being triggered, but it's not the same. When you're triggered, there's a physiological reaction that you have to recover from, and that reaction doesn't go away right away, especially if you get all the way into the fight or flight stage, because that takes time to calm down. I believe it's 20 minutes. It's been a really long time since I've heard the statistic of how long it actually takes. I believe the average person takes like a good 10 to 20 minutes to calm down from fight or flight. So a trigger doesn't have to lead to a flashback. Sometimes they're called emotional flashbacks because, again, there's this emotion arouses in you, but there's no direct link to something. And there is something on the outside usually, or on the inside with our own thoughts and our own feelings, triggering it, causing it to happen, but we don't always have a specific thing. So I'm trailing off here. I'm going to walk just a little bit more because I'm losing my thoughts. I'm not having a good day today in general. But we're going to see what else I can come up with, and then we'll wrap it up. Alright, so when we're triggered, defenses spring up, and everybody has different ways of having defenses. You know, a lot of the personality disorders are organized around specific kinds of defenses, but when these defenses come out, we often feel like there's nothing we can do about them, and sometimes that's true, because if you're in fight or flight, like, you're not just going to instantly calm down from that, and typically you're just reacting to the way that your body is physiologically set up. Your amygdala in your brain has gone off, and the amygdala does not come down quickly. We have neurotransmitters and things going on that it takes time. It just takes time to calm down from them. So when we're in that defensive mode, when we're triggered, we get defensive and we don't want anything to harm us. So we lash out, we go inwards, we avoid, we do all kinds of different defenses. But my point here is to understand what our defenses are, because we cannot have empathy when we are in a defensive mode, Car. We cannot see somebody else's perspective when we are in a defensive position. And we also cannot think rationally when we're in a defensive position, because our prefrontal cortex, which does our executive functioning, which is just basically like your logic and your thinking, that shuts down because now you're at an emotional level. And although you may not feel emotional because you may shut down further and shut off the emotions, you are not thinking straight. You're not thinking correctly. You may think you're thinking correctly because, again, you feel like you're calm and the emotions are shut down, but you're not. You're not actually rationally thinking. So it's important when we use the word triggered, we know what we're talking about. It's important that we get to know ourselves, get to know what our triggers are, get to know what we're defensive against. Maybe consider the possibility that we've had something traumatic go on in our life. Consider the possibility of approaching that and healing that with the help of a skilled professional, or if you are able to manage, do it on your own. It's not very easy to do on your own at all, but it can be done. Also consider the possibility that you may have some sort of personality disorder or some personality traits that are a little bit inflated because of this traumatic event and this trigger that's going on. Again, you don't have to have a traumatic event to be aroused by something, to get angry about something, to shut down when things go on. But we all have defenses, and we have them because of these kinds of situations where we get triggered. And again, it's important for us to become aware of how we experience our mental health in our bodies, what it feels like, what goes on. That way we can relate to people more clearly, relate to people in a more healthy way, and have better relationships, work more efficiently. Like, this is what I want for the world. I want to humanize mental health. I want to see the whole context of what's going on. And that's where I'm going to leave it. So if you like this kind of stuff, please subscribe. Once you hit subscribe, there's a bell. Hit the bell to get notified every time I do a video. I talk about mental health here. My goal is to humanize mental health and help everybody see that mental health problems show up differently in different people, and we all are experiencing them, and we all need help with them. There's a car coming. I'm just going to say a quick reminder that it's supposed to be raining around here, so if I don't upload a video in the next 1 or 2 days, that's why. If you would like to support me, I have a Patreon page. I greatly appreciate it. You just throw in $1 or something. Every little bit counts for me, so you get extras over there if that's something you're interested in. Also, this is my 193rd video. I do plan to do a special video for my 200th, so please keep an eye out for me to be talking about that. And once it comes out, I would greatly appreciate if you would share it. We'll see if I can pull it off. I have this grand vision in my head for what I want to do, and it's possibly a little bit too much that I can do in the time that I have to pull it off, but we're gonna see, and I'll keep you updated. Thank you for hanging in there with me while I went through my own little semi-triggering experience there when the truck came by, and I will see you the next time, everybody. Take care.